hitting a lot of people, bro. It's definitely hitting a lot of individuals. Where are you at right now? You in LA or you in New York?
No, I'm actually up in New York. We just landed in New York a couple of days ago, and then we started. We on production of Wu-Tang American Saga season 2. So back in the set, Ashton Sanders and Shamik Moore and all my little homies are back. Dave East and them, doing what they do to tell that story.
What's his name? Father came. His father came, and they were taking everybody to Ohio. Whose father was that?
Yeah. That was my little brother pops, my step pops, Jerome. Right. Bo King played Jerome, right? Bo King Woodbine played Jerome.
Exactly. Bo King Woodbine played Jerome, and he came in and he was knocking, was trying to sway your mother over. She didn't want to even see his face. She was like, "Sir, I'm really not interested in your face." And the whole thing with that. Let's start with that, man. Whose idea was it to do this with who?
I mean, me and Brian Grazer had met years ago on a movie called American Gangster.
Mm-hmm.
And we stayed in tune. And he read my book, The Tao of Wu. And when he read it, he came to me. He's like, "Yo, I want to option this book and make it into a play or a movie or something." And I said, "Yo, cool." We optioned it, and then we was like, "Yo, how about a TV series? Because it's a lot of information in here." And the Wu-Tang story is an American story. It's a story that happens in many black communities around the country, but in many communities, period, where families are trying to struggle and figure out life, and all the oppressions against them and all the odds against them, and especially in black and Latin families where it ain't just natural American struggle. It becomes even more when, like the episode you're watching now, episode 6, where the big police incident happens and everything, which happened on Staten Island multiple times. Whether, before Eric Garner, our homeboy Case already, it's a lot of brothers that already lost their lives by the hands of the police, you know what I mean? And not, I'm not a police basher, but the fact is that that happened a lot in our community. And those stories resonate around the whole country, bro. It don't resonate around the world, though, because in London, they only carry sticks. You know what I mean? So they ain't pulling out no biscuits and things like that. But
now, we both travel the world. I was in London and got into an argument with police, a legitimate arguing. And I said, "Wait a minute, hold on, I'm bugging. I'd never be able to do this in America." and they only come out with the guns when it's like a quick reaction force. Do you think that we should go to something like that, or do you think that going to sticks and stuff like that, the police would be just overrun?
Nah, I think the police will not be overrun because most people are law-abiding citizens, bro. You know what I mean? Look, we from the hood, right? How many times you seen homies in the hood getting into rah-rah with each other? I don't care what kind of biscuit they had, but when the cops come, everybody run. You know what I'm saying? So people respect authority. You know what I mean? And I think it's a natural human quality sometimes to respect authority. You know what I mean? Because that's just part of it. It's almost a common sense. But what happens is when you're being treated as a victim and somebody's the predator over you, that's a whole different equation. You know what I mean? And I think the culture that America put out, of course we could take it 400 years back or just take it right back to the 60s. When the brothers in the Black Panthers was trying to stand up for their Second Amendment, it's like it looked different when they saw us stand up as men, and so to kind of break that strength and to break that natural equality. They kind of came heavy on our communities, and our communities suffered from that. I mean, but I do think if we was in a policy or the way that they do it in a country like London, United Kingdom, which is the mother of our country, right? But anyway, if it was more like cops had sticks and it was forceful and telling us to back up and do what it's supposed to do, we're going to comply. Nobody going to come out there and just go crazy when that don't happen a lot in our communities. You ain't going to find a lot of brothers just zoning out like that. You know what I mean? Unless you get a Larry Davis Like, you know what I mean? When he had to do, you know what I mean?
Right. You know, Larry Davis was real with it. He was banging back at the police and knocking them down. So now I'm really into this. I'm really into this. And the way that I got into the series on Hulu is one of my best friends in the world, probably my best friend in the world, Sean C. from Loud, is a consultant on the show. And he kept telling me, yo, man, watch the show, watch the show, watch the show. This is before I even was going to interview you. And he got me into it. How accurate is that story? Because I know Wu-Tang from my dealings. By the time you guys got to Hot 97 and Jason Staten, I knew Jason Staten from being a record promoter. I know you from that early, but this is going all the way back. How accurate is this entire story?
You mean as far as the TV show?
Yep.
Well, TV is drama. It's a dramatization, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of things in there, of course, that's pure 100% because, you know, we're telling a story of people that lived and things they've been through. But since it's TV, you know, you either got to condense the time or you got to stretch out the time. It all depends on your character. For instance, there's a scene in episode 3 when Eric B and Rakim come to Staten Island and they come rock Park Villa. That happened, right? Of course, they came to town, they rocked the Park Villa, and we was all young, aspiring MCs trying to get on our feet. But that probably took place in maybe 88. But in our show, it take place in 1990 just to keep the cadence of time. So that's the thing about TV. You know, even film has the best ability to play with time. You ever watch a movie and homie could wake up in the morning, next thing you know, he drink his coffee, they cut, you know what I mean? You can manipulate time in film.
So all of that stuff is true. It's just the time, the fallopian tube rhyme, and Ghost being up there with you, and the other kids from the other, you know, they won with the Chubb Rock beat and all that stuff. All that stuff is real. It's just the time is spread out a little bit.
Yeah, and it's also like I said, it's dramatized. So the Park Villa battles happened multiple times on Staten Island. You know what I mean? There was a time where myself, I got booed. You know what I mean? I don't know what's the exact lyric, but it was more like I was more of a scientist type MC. You know what I mean? And on that particular incident, no, the person who won that night in all reality was Capadonna. Capadonna ate the whole team up back then. You know what I mean? Capadonna was like bong bong. You know what I mean? And everybody had to go back to the drawing board. And then on the second, and then you came back again to like the brother who would hold those events for us. You know, he had a young brother with him that was around our age that really believed in hip hop and believed that we were good at it, and that's why the other brother would pay for artists to come out and to kind of like school us in all reality. You know, and I remember Capadonna really being the one who took the trophy. I don't know who took it a few other times, but that particular incident when it was like a lot of Wu members there, I'm talking about like Ray was there, Ghost was there, I was there, Dirty was there, Jizzle was there.
Everybody was there.
And the winner was Capadonna.
Capadonna. There you go. and I might be wrong, but Capadonna was late to the Wu. Or was it that something else was going on and we just didn't see it?
No, but at the same time, so Kappa got locked up.
Right.
You know, so when we figured out the formula and brought it to the world, Kappa was up in, I think he might have been in Sing Sing or Elmira, one of those joints. This is why in this TV show you see a character locked up just to play off the time. You know what I mean? A character in there named Chino. He says that, yo, I represent Park Hill. See my face on a $20 bill.
Well, don't tell me I'm not up to that yet. Don't tell me I'm not up to that yet.
Okay. Keep doing the thing. But let me say one thing. Then we just go off the subject. On the episode you on, right, is another thing that we try to do with our show. We try to take the reality of these stories, right, and not just tell them in a linear or straightforward way. Wu-Tang is known for creating that art around it. Like when you put on 36 Chambers, you get that kung fu thing. You get the brothers building about the mathematics. You get comic books. You know what I mean? You get, yo, Shamik just got shot in the head. You get all that.
Right.
Because all place in your projects in all reality, right?
Right.
So as telling the story, the episode you on, you'll notice it starts with a little pigeon, right? And the idea was, you know, what happens, like, you know, as we was writing it, it was like, yo, imagine what a bird sees when he flies over your projects. He
Bird's
sees
eye view.
the bird's eye view, and so since it's TV, we could play with that, and so that's why that episode starts with that. And you'll notice that when you get through it, that pigeon is going everywhere, and he's giving us what he's giving us is that sometimes what's happening in your neighborhood, right, School, you don't realize it's happening in the neighborhood right over there. You don't realize what's happening in your house is happening in your neighbor's house, right? Because you're so concerned on yours, and you don't realize that the solution to the problem is these neighborhoods coming together, or that household coming together. That was part of the storytelling we try to use.
Now, speaking of which, you know, again, I was there for the whole Wu, for being on Hot 97, so I saw it all. Many days, for at least 3 years, I went out to Park Hill Day. And it was Park Hill and it was Stapleton Projects. And before I actually wound up living in Staten Island, because I wound up living on Henderson. And before I lived in Staten Island, I didn't understand it. I just saw these two big projects, and I never understood what it took to get guys from both projects to be involved in this. How were you able to bring Stapleton dudes and Park Hill dudes together when they probably didn't even like each other?
Well, that's we're gonna get into that as the season unfolds, right? So I don't want to give you no spoilers, but I will say one thing, and this goes back to first as the New Yorker, then as hip hop, then as a country. There's a common denominator, bro. You just gotta find that common denominator. You know what I mean? It's just like, I never forget when I went to the second time I think Wu-Tang did a show in Chicago, right? It was Ice Cube, Outkast, and Wu-Tang. Only hip hop could bring all that together.
Right.
And then we all get together, it's just like, oh, that's my man, because it's a common denominator. And even though he's rhyming that way, he's rhyming that way, right? The culture is in common, right? And so you even if you look at those two projects, hip hop, you know what I mean, music, common. So
that was the West. That was the West, New York, and the South, all in one in the Midwest. So that's like almost every region out there except the deep South. But
and you want to hear something funny? Homeboy, what's the brother name? He was telling me John Monopoly. He's one of Kanye's managers. He was like, I think he's the one who booked the show. So it's crazy how this culture,
all of that come together.
Yeah.
How all of it come together. You know, the one thing that I know, and just going through a bunch of things, everybody in certain places is interconnected. So like you said, John Monopoly, who's one of Kanye's managers, was the one who booked the show for RZA, Ice Cube, and this guy to be here. And you might not know it at the time, but you come back 10, 15 years later, you're like, wait a minute, hold on, you was the one who booked the show? Oh shit, boom, boom, boom. We're all connected in one way or another. I want to start with this. Of course, everybody knows the Wu-Tang. How did the Wu-Tang start? What was the genesis of the Wu, for people who might not know?
I mean, I think the part that people may not understand, that there's a spirituality behind it. You know what I mean? First of all, having knowledge of self is one thing, you know, having mathematics and knowing our lessons is one thing, but then also, you know, kind of falling in love with what the Asian culture had offered as well. Not just the way, you know, Bruce Lee came with the movies, but there was also like a something symbolic to a sword being related to your tongue. You know what I mean? I think I might have caught that from the Bible, to be honest with you. In the Bible, there was a verse in Revelation that said, out of Jesus' mouth came a double-edged sword. And with that sword, he was able to smite the nations, right? And smite could mean to destroy, ruin, or change. You know what I mean? And so I was like, our tongue is our sword. And we have the Wu-Tang sword, which is the best. And I started just advocating that, you know what I mean? And even though the Wu-Tang slang was in the streets, because Ghost was called Old English Wu-Tang,
Mm.
And I called Valentine L Shaolin. It was just kind of like a slang thing, but I caught the inspiration that nah, it's more than that. Because Wu, you know, the word Wu, it actually means formless. It's something that has no form. But from that, all forms come.
Mm.
And so I just started advocating that, knowing my mathematics and knowing the Bible. I applied it all together. Spirituality was something that was a common denominator as well, and brothers kind of related to that. And then you got a bunch of dope MCs who was like, yo, my tongue is the nicer. My sword is nicer. Yeah, my sword is nicer. Now, instead of it being just your lyric, your sword is nice.
Mm.
Yo, pull your sword out, son. We have a battle with some other MCs like, yo, son, pull your sword out, slice his head off. It's like, yo, and that might come in like, yo, and just, you know what I mean? Or tell them who gonna come with that sword. And it became like, yo, the Wu-Tang slang. And it resonated through the whole Staten Island in all reality. That's why you see my man Scott Free from Loud, who he wasn't an MC, right? But he was there passing through the neighborhoods. And his cousin Asham was an MC who used to be rolling with us. But Asham didn't go all the way. He kind of went to the military and did a whole different path, I think. But point being made was that Wu-Tang slang was resonating just on the rock. Staten Island, we call it the rock. It was just on the rock. Park Hill, Stapleton, New Brighton started catching on. You know what I mean? Arlington, Harbor. You know what I mean? It was like, yo, that Wu, you know what I mean? And then, you know, that it unified and gathered together under the Abbot. And, you know, I was chosen to be the Abbot. You know what I mean?
Wow. Speaking of Wu and Asian culture, what is the country, you know, after you released the records and you guys officially became the Wu, what was the country or the place in Asia that you went to and you touched down and you said, wow, I feel like I'm at home. I feel this embodies the Wu-Tang. I feel this embodies the whole spirit of everything we're about. Was there ever a place?
Wow. That's a good question. I don't think I'll be able to answer that without going into meditation, but I could say that I was blessed with the opportunity to go to the real Wu-Tang Mountain. There's a place called Wu-Tang Mountain where General Wu, who left, you know, the military and went to meditate, and he went to search for God, as the story says. And he thought, you know, he was questioning life, and he, according to the legend, he jumps off the mountain. He returns, he's reborn. He jumped off, this is according to the legend, he jumps off the mountain, and then he reemerged. You know what I mean? And they named the mountain after that, Wu-Tang. And it means man who is deserving of God. That's the Asian translation. I didn't know all that in the beginning. I went to the mountain, and the abbot of Wu-Tang Mountain told me this information, this story. And he showed me all the temples that they built, you know, in honor of General Wu. And there's also another legend that Chan Sang Fei, who was an Asian priest, a monk who was in Shaolin, also migrated to that mountain as well. And while everybody was looking for the external, he started looking at the internal.
Mm.
So you look at Tai Chi or Bakwa and Zhen Yi, these are martial art forms that's based on the internal, right? So you can make your body strong through meditation and sitting still and breathing and controlling your breath through your blood and your tendons. You know what I mean? And he's mastered that, and his style, you know, or his teachings had went to more of what they call Taoism. I mean, which simply means the way, right? Versus Buddhism, which is the teachings of the Buddha, right? And these two schools both grew.
Yes, sir. Okay, Abbott, you're over there on the Wu Mountain. Abbott to Abbott. So this the Abbott speaking to the Abbott. Did the Abbott of Wu-Tang Mountain know what the Abbott of Staten Island had done? Did he understand how big you were? what kind of contribution you made to music, how big you guys have become, or he just didn't know? Well, hold on. They saying they can't hear you. They saying they can't hear you. I'm gonna stop it. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna come back. Just hop back in. All right.